Right now. Call to order the call to order the regular meeting of the Building Board of Appeals for the City of Ann Arbor, Thursday, February 16th, 2018. February 15th, 2018. Have roll call, please.
Paul Darling. Robert Hart.
Here.
Gordon Berry. Here. David Arnsdorf. Hugh Flack. Present. Ken Winters.
Here.
Roll call is complete. We do have a quorum.
And can we have a listing of the names for the staff?
We have Mark Howell. Glenn Dempsey. Ryan Miller in the audience. And Paul Darling is now here.
Paul has shown up. Thank you. Had a rough time getting parking space for your bike.
I ran.
Oh, no. Okay, we have roll call finished. Approval of the agenda. Anybody have any comments or questions on that? If we're okay, if we could have a motion for approval. A second? Second. All those approve, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The agenda is approved. Approval of minutes. The October 19th, 2017 minutes. I've reviewed that. One correction, and this has been gone over with Deborah. Correction was the 2009 Michigan Residential Code should read 2015. And then there's just a spelling and changing the first part of the motion, eliminating the word "from" the stairs, just eliminating "from," and have it read "the stairs to the third floor." And those will be taken care of. If we could have, are there any other questions or comments on that? We can have a motion for approval as amended.
I move we approve the August 17th, 2017 minutes as amended.
Second. Motion and support. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is passed. And the October minutes are approved. BBA minutes for December 19th, 2017.
There's a correction on E2, 17-2099. That says it's seconded by B. Gordon. It's actually seconded by G. Berry.
Okay. Any other? Again, Glenn, I questioned the, on E1, the second page, the third line says, second line ends Michigan Building Code, says 2012.
I believe that is correct, as that's the application date that they applied for.
Okay, all right, that's fine. E2, the second line of the motion, it says exception to section BR22. Should this read section 302 of 2015 Michigan Residential Code?
That doesn't seem like it's an appropriate section there.
It's whatever the section was that was quoted.
Yeah, in the application, we could have
In
them
the
verify
application.
what that was in the application.
Have to verify that.
Verify that one. Do we hold off on the approval or just give approval as with verification?
Amendment.
Yeah, I
could
believe it is 322.1, but not 100% possible.
But it should be 2015 MRC, and read 2015 MRC.
Put the with the section code in there, I guess, yeah, with the year, huh? Doesn't say the year in there now, but it would make sense to do that.
I believe so. I believe it is 2015 code.
uh-huh.
All right,
Okay.
I will make that correction.
All right, thank you. Could we have a motion for approval with the amendment, as amended?
Move to approve the amendments?
Second.
Motion and support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Motion is approved. All right. Next is public commentary. Is there anyone wishing to speak on general policy or problems with the Building Board of Appeals? No hands raised. Thank you. Next would be appeals, actions, and show cause hearings. First on the agenda is BBA 18-001 at 106 East Liberty Street. Glenn, did you want to give us a summary
Yes.
of what's going on there?
Yes,
Thank you.
for description and discussion, Mark G. Mesmore, the applicant for 106 East Liberty Street, Suite 120, the La Taquerica Restaurant, is requesting to allow the additional bathrooms in the office space on the second floor to meet the bathroom requirements of the plumbing code. Under the interpretation, the architect had originally indicated that the occupant load for the La Taquerica is 15 people. While this was approved, allowed occupant load 15 persons for the previous business, the La Taquerica floor plan now shows a much larger occupant load. The architect in his current document has now indicated the space and seating to have an occupant load of 49 people in this business use. Table 403.1 attached shows that a minimum number of bathrooms, one men's and one women's, must be provided. Section 403.3.3 allows the use of bathrooms one floor above and one floor below, and the distance shall not exceed 500 feet. However, the additional bathrooms on the second floor required, or meeting the requirement of the minimum code, are not in a common space. The bathrooms are controlled by another tenant in the building, and they are behind a locked door. And then I give the sections themselves listed below, 403.1 for minimum number of fixtures, and the location of toilet facilities, 403.33. It also shows the exception that is allowed, but in summary, the owner of La Taquerica has only control over one bathroom at any time. The second floor tenant may refuse the patrons entry into their space to use these bathrooms. And then there's the attachments accordingly.
Okay, great, thank you. Is there someone here to speak on this one? Yes. Come up to the desk and make sure you're signed in.
I am. My name's
Your name and let us know about it.
okay. My name's Mark Messmore. I am the applicant, as Mr. Dempsey said, and also hopefully the owner of this restaurant that will hopefully open very soon. So, everything that Mr. Dempsey said is correct. I have contacted the tenant upstairs above the restaurant, and I have a signed letter from him stating that he will allow us access to the bathrooms upstairs. We'll have keys to his space so that we have unrestricted access to those bathrooms during our business hours. The process here has been quite lengthy for us. We actually purchased the restaurant back in July. My first contact with the city was actually on July 18th. We filed our paperwork with the city, and then also with the Washtenaw County Health Department. The health department actually worked, we were back and forth quite a bit. We received all of our approvals from the health department. We didn't actually hear anything from the city for a period of about 3 months. And we were actually getting ready to open late October to try to capitalize on the last couple of football games. And out of courtesy, we actually stopped by City Hall and said, listen, we're planning to open this weekend. We never heard from anybody here. Just wanted to make sure everything was okay before we opened our doors. And it was like, wait a minute, like, no, you're not okay. You're absolutely not okay. And so we learned that when we purchased the restaurant in July, there was a bunch of work done prior to our purchasing of the restaurant. And so we spent basically the last 4 months, additional 4 months, retroactively going and getting blueprints sort of modified and redrawn and trying to sort of rectify what was on file versus how the current state of the restaurant. And so the bathroom issue is sort of the last piece of getting that plan approved. We certainly didn't buy any more chairs. We refinished the chairs that were there. Certainly didn't buy any more chairs. We thought the chairs that were there would be approved for patrons. So it was not known to me that we could only have 15 at that time. And then so I worked with Mr. Dempsey and actually Mr. Howell as well in terms of coming up with a kind of an alternative in terms of using the bathrooms upstairs to do that. I'm born and raised in Ann Arbor. This is sort of a dream of mine, is to have this restaurant. So, I've put everything I have. I'm out of money. I'm out of time. There's not really, over the last 8 months, this was never supposed to take 8 months. It's over $100,000 in, and it was never sort of the plan to have it be that way. So this is sort of our last effort to try to get this done. I think that, just in terms of where things stand with the space itself, it's a difficult space. There's not really, given the footprint of that restaurant, it's the former Maison Bleu Deli. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but there's not really a space for another bathroom in there with the way the kitchen is all downstairs and the way that first floor has a very small footprint for tables, which is kind of how we have it laid out. So that's why I'm asking for, of course, with the permission of the tenant upstairs, to have unrestricted access during our business hours to be able to utilize their bathrooms to meet our occupancy load of 49.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Board have any comments or questions?
I don't think your permission should be coming from the tenant upstairs. That should be coming from the landlord who owns the building.
Okay.
And in effect, in my opinion, owns the problem, not
Right.
you.
Right.
So the packet has sort of contradictory information in that you say you've got permission from the tenant upstairs. The architect has a letter that says there's permission from the landlord. So I think at the very least, it behooves you to have a letter from the landlord.
Sure.
Well, you probably should get approval from both parties.
Sure.
And have that ready for the city so that everybody is on board.
On the same page.
Logistically, I don't quite understand how that's going to fly. If I was a tenant, I'm not sure I would be open to having people rummaging through my space.
Sure.
To go to the bathroom, because your business hours probably don't coincide with the business hours of the tenant upstairs.
Correct.
You're open into the evening
Correct.
hours and on weekends, right?
Correct.
So, there's a big leap of faith that everything's going to be, okey-dokey.
Sure.
So, that said, there's one other odd little issue here, is that you now have 3 single-use bathrooms serving 2 occupancies, and there's a limit on the number of single-use bathrooms that you can have. I think that's 50, something like that.
Whatever occupancy they're not going based on that.
Yeah. So, if this is going to fly, I think whatever the motion is, it's got to acknowledge that having these 3 single-use bathrooms to serve the 2 floors is going to be okay with the city. Is it going to be okay with the city?
I believe the code, and I also have my plumbing inspector present, Ryan Miller. I believe the code says it has to have a men's and a women's.
So you
And it
designate one
was-
men's and women on the upper
The,
floor, yeah.
the original
Yeah.
business that was there, the deli, was approved for 15 occupants. And so they were allowed to have a unisex
Right.
bathroom.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the transition between that tenant and the Mr. Missmore, seating changed and it went beyond what was approved. And now you have a tenant space upstairs, and I did see that it was 2 unisex bathrooms, as indicated by the plan. I'm not sure if I have a great answer. I believe that the bathrooms are in use right now. I'm not sure if I really need to go back into that space to correct it if it's required. I'm not sure when they were put in, but we would have 3 bathrooms.
I mean, personally, multiple single-use bathrooms are ultimately flexible. So I just didn't, if there was a motion going forward that it wasn't going to
Be it men's
be
and women designated.
be an issue.
Yeah.
But, so, one other question. So if we pass a motion for a variance for this particular situation, what happens down the road so that this doesn't, is this going to become memorialized for this particular building forever, or is this just for this particular situation?
We can say that to this tenant or use, I guess, but the next tenant moving in is gonna have to be the same request. Well, the previous thing allowed that,
Right.
or upstairs tenant changes, the landlord decides to take it away and wants to rent it to somebody else, it could depart the, impact your occupancy too.
Sure, and I think that given the 1 bathroom is already downstairs, and the elevator would need to be utilized for ADA access downstairs. Certainly the manager on duty, we would have signage, to indicate there's additional bathrooms upstairs. Mr. Dempsey and I had talked about that. And that, manager on duty, if needed, could escort someone up there or whatever. But, I guess to the point of, next tenants and so forth, we would be fine that, I guess at that point, if that tenant, if the upstairs tenant were to depart and the new tenant would not allow us to do that, yes, we would need to adjust.
But you see,
our-
that's where the landlord override comes in.
Would help you there.
Right.
Because it's his building.
Sure.
Or her building. Or
Sure, it's his,
their building.
Dr.
pardon
Romani,
me.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that's.
he's agreeing to it as well. but
Right.
He's aware of it. and-
Yep, he's certainly aware. I actually
Yeah.
just talked to him last week about it. So in terms of getting a letter from him,
Yeah.
I don't think that would be a problem.
Okay.
And then operationally, you're gonna have the doors upstairs locked, and then if somebody needs to utilize the washrooms upstairs, you would have somebody escort them? Is that part of the letter that you've got?
The letter that I have says unrestricted access. Our intention is to leave that door locked for the security of their space, and that, if and when the bathrooms upstairs need to be utilized, our manager on duty knows that and will accompany them to unlock that door.
As opposed to people just going downstairs and waiting in line until the.
Correct,
Yeah,
correct. Yep.
it's a lot of signage. Explain.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, without getting into specifics, I think something is going to need to be posted,
Sure.
if not just for the operation of things, but the next time you have an inspection from either the city or the health department or what have you, and they don't, they're not going to know what the deal is.
Exactly. Mr. Dempsey had said previously that we would need signage that would indicate such.
So the bathrooms that are currently upstairs, those serve office spaces.
Correct.
And do we know that those bathrooms have capacity to have additional people to them? Or are they at maximum capacity of the number of people serving those bathrooms now? How many square feet do they serve?
It's a business use, I believe, that the 2 bathrooms supplemental, which shouldn't be a problem, because he does have the bathroom.
It just serves that one floor of that, doesn't serve the floor above?
It's for
or-
that tenant space, which
There's
is
additional-
typical
Yeah, yeah.
in most
Yeah.
cases.
Mhm. So they must have enough to require 2.
Yes.
And he may have additional bathrooms on the 3rd floor. It's the same tenant as the
Same
2nd and
layout.
the 3rd floor. Yes.
you have a bathroom in the basement.
Correct.
That will be designated as unisex.
That's correct.
What is the access to that? Is it directly from the stair?
There's a stair, yep, directly, once you come down the stairwell, right in front of you is the bathroom door. And then you can also
That's
go up.
a new bathroom door.
That is a new bathroom door, yes.
Okay.
But then there's actually two doors to that bathroom. The other door to that bathroom in the basement is actually through the kitchen, because for ADA compliance, you would have to go out the side door upstairs and then down the elevator, obviously not down the stairs. And that's the
Yeah.
ADA entrance to that bathroom. That's why there's two doors on that bathroom.
Oh, okay. Those two doors, is it going to work for having it locked from the inside on both those doors? A note or a sign saying, "Lock me"?
Right,
Lock me?
generally, they're both open, and then it's just like a standard push lock on both doors. And once you're in there, the two doors are butted right up next to each other, so.
What happens when somebody goes out the elevator and the other one's locked? You don't open both, and then you come down the other way, you can't get in? You have to go out the other way to get in?
Say that again, I'm sorry. I didn't
Okay, there's
follow.
two doors, one goes to the elevator and one goes to the stairway side.
Yep.
What happens if somebody goes out the one but doesn't unlock the other one? How do you get around to making those two work?
I guess we would have to maintain that and check that, and make sure that they remain
Yeah.
unlocked, yeah.
Maintenance or operations?
Yeah,
Is there
because
a way of having it electronically?
we might actually, I was thinking that as you were saying
One or
that.
the other is locked,
Mhm.
it automatically
Yep.
closes the other.
Some sort of like electronic plate, I think they have those for doors. It's a unique situation, the way it was laid out originally. It looks like that the ADA door is actually in the kitchen. It's on the kitchen side of things. And so, typically, unless someone is wheelchair bound and would
Yeah.
utilize the elevator, they wouldn't be coming in that
Yeah.
way. They would be coming down the stairs, because
Yeah.
that's the customer facing side of the restaurant.
The stair going down to the basement
Mm-hmm.
and to the unisex toilet, that stairway is open, and using that stair, you have a door going into the restroom.
That's correct.
The door going to the kitchen, is that going to be closed, locked from that side? You
It's a
can't
swing,
get-
it's a swing door, so it's like a kitchen door. So in theory, you could push that open and go into the kitchen.
So somebody coming down from the restaurant upstairs to go to the restroom could accidentally go out into the kitchen area?
They could, yes, when they,
That gives direct access to anybody going down there to the kitchen area.
correct. We
Is-
actually,
Is that contrary to health department regulations?
that was approved by the health department because of the swing door that's there. It does in effect seal it off. It's not locked, but the health department did not require us to have it locked.
Okay. Can the door to the kitchen have a sign saying kitchen, no public access?
Or employees only, or something like that,
Employees
sure,
only.
absolutely.
And of course, you'll have the door, a sign on the door about the toilet room. That's
Correct.
fine. The stair, the enclosed stair for the building that's opposite the elevator,
Mhm.
that is a stair that goes down to the basement,
That is correct.
and it goes up to the second floor
And the third floor, yes.
and third.
But that stairwell that you're referring to is in the common, that's separate from the stairwell that's in the restaurant? Yes. Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
So if the tenant upstairs, after a period of time decides that he's not comfortable having people walk through his space anymore to get to the bathroom, what happens? Can he withdraw his permission, and then what what would it be that, you'd be limited to 15 people, is that?
Unless we were to, submit
Yeah.
plans and try to construct another bathroom or something.
The landlord trumps the tenant.
Sure.
That's why you need that letter, and that's why they probably should amend the lease for for the folks upstairs to acknowledge that. I mean, something needs to be memorialized in writing among all the parties
Sure.
to make this all kosher, so.
I wouldn't feel so bad if it wasn't secured. I mean, the fact that you're going through if it was a public space, you can get to it, it wouldn't be such of an issue, but going through their office to get to it is the,
Right,
I'm
it's
not an
just-
attorney, but you're almost granting an easement to
Yeah.
the bathrooms.
Yeah.
And that's where I have a problem with this. It's,
yeah.
the ability, the access to the bathrooms is too tentative, it's too tenuous.
What about having something approved temporarily for 3 months or 6 months? See how that works. Directing the landlord to possibly modify the location, change the location of one of those rooms so that
It's public, you put a barrier door up, or you're saying,
he could
yeah.
have a hallway, or move the restroom adjacent to the stair so that it's right by the lobby there, and taking out the closet, he has room for a doorway to his space, and changing so that access to the restrooms are from the lobby rather
it would not be a
than
locked door.
going into the office space of the tenant. Is the office space both the front and the back
Same tenant?
the same tenant?
Yes.
Because once you get busy with the restaurant, you're relying on your employee to escort them up and down and unlock things. I could see it as,
Here's the key.
or something, right?
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Or somebody duplicating a key while they're given the key, or
Sure.
that type of thing. It's
A lot of risk, yeah.
too risky.
So if this was a temporary easement, let's say, how is that enforced with the landlord? Does the Department of Buildings tell the landlord that there was an accommodation made, but he's got to do something about it? Because to me, that's on him, not on them, to make that fix.
So we would not get involved with the landlord to force him to fix something for this tenant here. It's not our right, it's a civil or a agreement that, between him and his landlord and tenant. It does become a maintenance issue. There are other issues that you've brought up. But it would be, I guess it'd rely on this gentleman to provide you whatever documentation you may want, if that's the case that you want to move forward. We could not force it. I can, if I become aware of the second and third bathroom not being aware, if that's what's going to be done here, and I become aware that it's no longer able to be used, I can then get an enforcement action. But you can also put stuff in your exception if you want to that requires that too. I mean, it can be done both ways, but enforcement can, if he no longer has two bathrooms and has the same capacity of seating, I could get into enforcement if I have to. Or lower the occupant load, or
Well,
redesign the space and come up with another bathroom. So there are 2 or 3 options, but.
And we have a good relationship with the guys upstairs. I mean, we could check in and at any point in time, if you guys want like a frequency of, to ensure or at least kind of check in to make sure that that agreement is still in place, that we do still have access to the bathrooms.
If I might add one more thing, there is always the possibility, if you want to grant some type of exception, we could put it under a temporary certificate of occupancy, and if compliance isn't met, we can then revoke it would be
For 60
eliminated.
days, you're giving them another temporary CO to see how it's working out and, you know.
Well, see if you're going to require, I don't know what the board's going to come up with, but we could grant a temporary occupancy for 2 or 3 months. If you need additional documentation, that would be required if that's the route you go. So there are a couple options here.
That will allow them to
Suppose
open.
Suppose that documentation doesn't come forward. This is a very contingent situation here, and I'm really uncomfortable with it. If this happens, I'm just not comfortable with the upstairs tenant being in any way enthusiastic about this happening for more than a few weeks to find out that maybe this isn't really what we want up there.
His letter.
It's the
to
landlord.
you-
It's all, excuse me, it's all on the landlord. The other problem I have with trying to enforce this is that, I mean, personally, I think there is a way to convert one of those bathrooms to public use. The trouble is, who's going to pay for it? Because it's going to affect the upstairs tenants' lease,
Operations, you have to do it.
their operations. I mean, it's not, you know, to require that imposes a cost and a hardship on somebody. My feeling is it shouldn't necessarily be on you, but there's nothing that apparently we can do to make the landlord go back and upgrade or reconfigure his building to make it a permanently workable situation. And I also have to just say, as a matter of course, that I'm inclined to let this happen, to make a motion to let this happen on the basis that you guys seem to have tried very hard to do the right thing, and you were unfortunately unrewarded for your efforts.
I grapple with that a lot.
I think it's I guess what I'm saying is I think it's a larger building issue. I think there's a architectural solution for that, to make it work between the lower floor and the upper floor without people going through other people's space. So I think what might happen is that a variance could be offered to make this acceptable with the provision that this is a one-time only deal, and that if, for whatever reason, your business doesn't succeed or you
Leaves
move
or-
on, and this comes back again, it isn't going to be treated in the same way. I don't know, the problem is that this, I agree with you, this is getting to be really, somewhat complicated, because I don't think, as a long-term matter, I don't think this is going to come back at some point in time.
Yeah. Either people are gonna wait too long for the one bathroom and not use the other one, or, then what happens,
There are also additional bathrooms in Shinola, the retail store, that opened a kind of a coffee bar downstairs in the basement. So there are also additional so when you come down the elevator, there's kind of a common space lobby there. And then the back door to Shinola's kind of coffee bar, billiard room thing that they have in the basement. And there are bathrooms down there as well.
But how do you get to them? Isn't that through
Same
your,
situation.
through your kitchen, right?
Yes, it would be effectively down the stairs, and you would have to go through the kitchen, which is why I was the one who made the call. Do we go to Shinola and try to ask them, or do we go upstairs? And it
Yeah.
seemed less problematic to go upstairs.
If you're missing anything in Shinola, that could cost you.
It would cost me a lot more than an office, that's true. That's very true.
So what are your hours of operation, to like 8 PM or something like that, or?
We're gonna
10 PM?
be, we're gonna be until 10 PM on weekdays and then until midnight on weekends.
And do you have a liquor license?
I have the DDA license paperwork. I've been advised by a couple of people on the DDA, the 20,000, everything, it's ready to go, but I'm not pulling the trigger on that until I know that we're actually going to open. So but that it is the intention, yes, it is the intention.
Can the first floor be modified a little bit to add a unisex restroom up there by eliminating one table?
Well, we had actually looked into that. In the far corner, there's a booth there right now, and we did look into doing that. And I think it's possible, something that's possible down the road. There's water accessible beneath it. There's not drainage, there's not sewage, like a sewer line beneath it. It would require like a core bore or something to bore out. It's a big concrete floor, so we would need to get access to that. So I mean, we did try to look into that, but in terms of the time and the cost involved, it wasn't something that was immediately feasible to us. Down the road, it's certainly something we could entertain, but right now, I mean, I don't have the time or the money to invest into a new bathroom right now.
Is that at the west end, right next to the lobby?
Yes,
On the
yes it
first
is.
floor?
Yep.
What is shown there, is that you call a booth?
It's a booth, yeah. It has kind of an L-shaped seat
Yeah.
and then a table in the middle. And
Okay,
yeah.
you don't show the table.
Oh, okay, yes.
I thought it was some sort of serving
Oh, no, that
type
is a seat.
of condiments and drink or something.
It's a seat.
Okay.
So it could be that we do that gives them a 12-month or 24-month period that they implement that over to alleviate the problem upstairs. You give him the time that he's asking for, and probably gives a better restroom availability than in the basement or the floor above.
And if we have some time to establish, I mean, I think that would be more reasonable, given
Do you have
it's,
anything to limit the occupancy, or are we still trying to do this so you can have the full 49 people? I don't know, is there any break between one bathroom and 15 and two bathrooms at 49 or whatever it is?
No, there's no
No.
Okay.
differentiation there.
And I think the concern of adding a liquor license only increases the demand potentially for a bathroom than, the convenience of having a bathroom than some other type of restaurant.
certainly if, I think if we put a bathroom right there on the first floor in that west corner, it'd certainly make the downstairs bathroom used a lot less,
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
imagine.
Yeah.
I don't see how he's going to do that.
Originally, my original reading of this was that, no, I'm not in favor of it. And nothing here has really done anything to change my mind.
I mean, it's complicated. I mean, the advantage is you invested a lot of money in there, sort of limited your occupant load, which impacts your operations quite a bit and your success.
What, wouldn't it have been his responsibility to make sure that his business, wanting 50 people in there,
Has enough restrooms.
has enough restrooms?
Right.
Is
And,
there
and
enough?
you're absolutely right.
Does it make,
We didn't do
does
that.
it meet the city requirements, the
Right.
code
We didn't do that.
requirements?
I foolishly, as I learned in many examples of taking over this business from the previous occupant, we assumed that the way they were operating their business was approved with the city, and it was not. So
Mhm.
we did not purchase chairs or tables. We just refinished them.
So what do you think is a reasonable time frame to put a restroom on the first floor? 18, 24 months,
I think, I mean,
as far as financially?
I would say I could easily close down next January, get all my, I mean, there's not a whole lot of business floating around in January anyway. So I mean, I think,
Yeah.
to be able to sort of generate some cash flow, recoup that, I think, a year is a reasonable amount of time to say, over the next year, we can, again, do what apparently the previous tenants did not do in terms of getting plans and permits and all those things, approved ahead of time, and then be able to pull trigger on construction on a new bathroom upstairs.
Or another option there is to request from the landlord.
Correct, to modify that one upstairs, so it would be
modify.
more of a common space bathroom, exactly, from the lobby, like you said.
Even during that interim, you certainly want to see, have copies of the agreements in place, and then operating procedure or description of them, so that if Greg can go and enforce something, he knows what he's, you can reference back to an operating procedure of what you're supposed to enforce.
So his 3-bathroom requirement would be one in the basement, one on the first floor, and one on the second floor?
Well, it wouldn't need 3.
Only needs
It would only
It only
need
needs
2.
two.
Oh, only 2,
Only
okay.
need 2. But they
Okay.
would- Right now, they're saying they have
I would be able to do
access
3.
to.
To both on the
Okay.
second floor, exactly.
Okay. So with the application of a second one, access to a second one in some way, gets him to the one number he needs, yeah.
Correct.
If we were to limit our approval for 6 months, and see how that's working out, see if the city receives any public,
Complaints is what's gonna drive it,
complaints.
you know, but who complains to the city of the end bathrooms? I don't know who the complaint goes to, but.
A lot of complaints go unheard because they just,
Yeah,
they live with it and it's not worth
Right.
a phone call or effort.
yeah.
Most of the complaints probably go to the health department, since it's associated with the restaurant.
I think most of the complaints are going to appear on Facebook or your
Yelp.
webpage.
Yelp or something of the sort, I would agree, I would agree.
Yeah. You want to take a shot at this, Bob? Sure.
Is that
I think,
I'm all set.
You all set?
Anything else?
The only thing I would say is, I think it should be, if you are gonna grant some type of exception, to have us as the enforcement to go in and check. I'm not sure, you should put a time frame on whatever you're looking for. So that's the only thing I would say. I don't think we should be involved in a maintenance issue. We get involved in enforcement and complaints. But that would be my only thing that I would be concerned about.
Once a month, each of us on the board go.
Free taco.
Free time, I was gonna say,
Get a
because
taco
like, a building board
Ask to go to the
appeals.
bathroom. Yeah,
Go check on the bathroom.
yeah,
Go to the bathroom.
yeah.
Right. Touchy situation. I just don't see that tenant upstairs being acceptable with people walking in. Even if they're,
If I'm the one up there mopping every night after we close, make sure it's all just
Hmm.
perfect.
This is a distraction.
You're gonna have to have a bathroom attendant up there almost all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my problem, that's why I can't support it, it's too loose, it's too open-ended, it's too contingent.
Wait for the motion. You'll love the motion.
all right, as the motion, we do have to make the motion in the positive acceptance of this, and then we vote yes or no.
Okay. I move that in the matter of BBA 18-0001 at 106 East Liberty Street, to permit an exception to the Michigan Plumbing Code 403.1 for a minimum number of fixtures, and Michigan 403.3.3 for location of toilet facilities to allow the ground floor restaurant the use of the second floor tenant's space, bathrooms, provided written permission is provided by the tenant and landlord, granting use and in effect an easement for the use of those bathrooms, that those written permissions be furnished to the Department of Buildings, and that appropriate instructional signage is provided for staff and patrons on the use of those bathrooms. Further, in that regard, we move that the city will grant a temporary CFO for the restaurant for 12 months to enable construction of a required second bathroom either on the second floor or within their space. We find this an acceptable alternate to the code. We further stipulate that the specific condition justifying the variance shall be neither so general nor recurrent in nature as to make an amendment of the code with respect to the condition reasonably practical or desirable, and that further, this variance shall be specific to this particular building and shall not be used as a precedent for other similar variances.
Thank you. Board have any other questions?
Would we like to have an update on some sort of frequency of how the progress is going for the 1 year?
I guess at 6 months, if he knows he's gonna build another bathroom, or if he's gonna modify the existing one, it would be nice to know what his plan is, so you have time to complete that before your
Sure.
year is up.
Yep, and submit plans. I mean, I would say at 6 months, we'd want to submit plans and get that process started anyways.
Do we care about it being designated men's and women's, or they gonna all be unisex? Or what if they're designated now, they're designated now as?
I would make them all unisex. I mean,
They
just,
function that way,
They-
probably.
they
People go to
function,
the-
yeah.
It was not locked, they're gonna function that way.
so,
Just make it not part of the motion and.
okay, so to amend the motion, that both bathrooms, ultimately, that both bathrooms that will be used by the restaurant will be unisex bathrooms, and that the applicant will provide demonstration of intent to rectify the situation within 6 months of this hearing.
Along with an update as to how things are operating.
Sure, if that's working well or not. Sure.
Have you received any comments from the tenant? Any questions from the public?
Sure, patrons.
Okay, that'll be included in that letter.
Okay.
Okay, anything, Glenn?
If I might make the notion or the mention that if he chooses, if Mr. Messmore chooses to put an additional bathroom in his space, it would be nice if we had a men's and a women's, which really would meet the code. If it becomes a second floor bathroom, if you're acceptable to a unisex bathroom, it would be what's currently installed in the restaurant as it is, and that would give another bathroom, at least 2 bathrooms would be available to the public.
There's the one bathroom that is in basement.
Was a unisex bathroom because it was 15 occupants or less. So if he creates another bathroom on the first floor, which he may choose to do, that would just be men's and
In the
women's.
basement next to the existing unisex, it would be men's and
If you
women's?
create a second bathroom in your existing space, that they be designated men's and women's. That should be easy enough.
One upstairs, one downstairs, or?
Your choice, yeah. whatever you
Your
want.
choice.
Okay.
Your choice. That's the only thing that would bring it
Fully
totally,
compliant.
fully compliant at
Yeah.
that time, and it would be in this gentleman's best interest,
Is
I
that
think. too.
limit handicapped access in any way? So.
Has to be accessible.
Well, both of them have to be handicapped
Yeah.
accessible.
They should be
Do
accessible.
it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so did you catch that as an additional requirement?
Yes.
You might want to make that, and put that in your motion to the board
You want
itself.
to
If
amend it
that's
that
what
way?
you feel you want to do. That's,
Okay, so I don't, I don't mind amending the motion again to make a men's and women's bathroom. I just want to float this out here. So if there is a women's bathroom in the basement, let's just say, and a men's bathroom on the first floor, or vice versa, one in the basement for one sex and one on the second floor for the other sex, and they're both handicap accessible, does that become an issue as far as availability of accessibility? Do you know what I mean? That there's
Discrimination.
yeah, basically, that you're making it harder on one group as opposed to the other group to get to the bathroom. And I really hate to get bogged down in details like that, but the problem with the ADA is it's not just a building code, it's also a civil rights
Right.
code.
So if you're handicapped male, you have to use the elevator versus,
Yeah.
right.
So, but I guess the way out of this potentially would be, if it becomes an issue, they could revert to unisex bathrooms. I mean, conceivably. Yes,
not by code, it requires a men's and a
it
women's.
requires a men's and a women's. Okay, well.
I think on our previous discussions, it would be like, well, if it's open and available, people tend to use them even if they're designated one or the other, so.
Oh, you could always switch them around and say that half the year they're one way. Okay, so I'll amend the motion to stipulate that upon construction of the second bathroom, one will be designated men and one will be designated women.
All right, any other comments or questions? If we can have, we've got the motion, we have a second. Is there a motion and support? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay?
Nay.
3-2?
So the motion is passed,
What was the count?
3-2.
Quorum? You got a quorum, okay.
Yes. Okay, so the motion is passed, the variance is granted. There are a lot of stipulations and requirements
Sure.
there, but I hope you understand.
Yeah, does that, so I understand it as being a year, I need to get plans, I'll probably try to start that process sooner than a year. Do I get a copy of, like, how does that work in terms of, do I just understand it as I understand it in my head, or does something come in writing?
We'll provide you
Okay,
documentation for it.
okay.
It'll be on your CFO.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure it was gonna be recap. I don't know if you saw me, I started writing notes because I wasn't sure of the process, so.
But you should probably, well, not, you should take that back to your architect
Yeah,
and the landlord to see what you can work out. Because personally, again, I think that there is a solution on the second floor with one of those bathrooms that could.
that butts up against the lobby, yeah,
It could function as a public bathroom,
sure.
but that might, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Sure.
So, but that discussion should be, you know, involve several parties.
With the landlord and
Yeah,
tenants, yeah, sure.
so.
Understood.
And we'll be back in August with an update.
6 months, yeah. Yep.
So also be aware that My office is downtown. I will be within walking distance. I will come in
Okay,
and sample your tacos
very good.
and see how the restrooms are working.
All right, very good. All right, thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
That was a nice long one.
That was a tough one, yeah.
Next on the agenda is old business. Anybody have anything about the old? Anybody have anything with new business? If not, can we have a motion for adjournment? Motion and second, all those in favor? Aye. Time to go home. We are adjourned.